Welcome to The Shield Within. The issues discussed on the Shield Within podcast do not reflect the opinions of any specific agency. They are the views of the host and the guest. Any persons discussed may be fictional for comedic purposes only. This podcast is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised. Listening to The Shield Within may trigger repressed or suppressed memories or experiences. Please contact a mental health professional at your earliest convenience. It's time for the chaos to cease.
Time to open yourself to peace.
From the hours you've put in.
To the next shift you begin.
From the endless pursuit of release.
That finds the worst unleashed.
Transform the ugly into a win.
Get to know your shield within.
Welcome to The Shield Within.
Welcome, Mark.
Oh, heck, I forgot to do that. So we are all alone. We have just the Kelli with us.
Hello. That doesn't make us alone.
No, don't make us alone. But, we got Dr. David in the house, and then, we got the Kelli in the house, and of course, my ugly mug, we're here too. So as I'm going down the line here, I'm clicking through so everybody can see our smiling faces. So we're digital, finally. Welcome, and hello, everyone. So let's go ahead and do some business. Then we'll get right into whatever we're going to talk to tonight, because I'm beginning to feel unloved. I don't know why we're so unloved. I mean, Kelli, do you know?
I have a couple ideas.
Oh, far away.
Just kidding.
No.
It's Tuesday at 5 p.m.
Yeah, I guess something like that. But,
Right.
Whoops. There we go. Anyway, so if you are on Facebook, we know you are, Facebook / Shield Within, or we'll be getting a lot of traffic at our website here lately, www.theshieldwithin.com. If you're in need and you want to talk to Dr. David himself, you can go to lessonslearncoaching.com, and you'll be able to talk to him there. I was reading your website today, David, that you got the 15-minute freebie on there. So schedule, and you can work with David himself. So he only does telehelp. So if you got that extra $5 laying around every month and you want to support the show, we'll give you a little bit of a shout out, and I'll track you down like a dog and send you out some merch. So it's just $5 a month for that. So everybody's like, so you want to do a podcast? Yeah, let's do a podcast. It's a little more than putting in a set of headphones and hit record.
Yeah.
So a little more equipment than that. So,
Right.
David, what's new?
Oh, geez. I had a response. We got an inquiry this morning from a first responder north of us looking for a therapist. And we found him someone in his county that he's looking for. But he was also looking for a therapist with first responder certification.
No.
And I found two in his neck of the woods.
Perfect.
I'm going to contact him tomorrow with those two people's information. But I found that, and I've been doing this now for a while, and it's pretty consistent. If I look up first responder certification for a therapist, I don't get shit.
Right.
But if I get therapists in, for example, today, 50 miles away from Wapakoneta, Ohio, and then I go to a thing on Psychology Today, which has everybody's specialty on it, and you go down the list of each therapist, and sure enough, there's first responder people there, and they work with trauma, and they work with both EMDR people. One is kind of a specialist in veterans, but does work with first responders.
Really?
So if you are a first responder and you're looking, look for therapists in your zip code, maybe 50 miles away, 25 miles, whatever you're comfortable driving. And then look on their pages on Psychology Today. That's where my understanding is a lot of our people are finding therapists, is on the Psychology Today website.
Well, and that's a great resource.
Yes.
And like we always say, you want to get in and contact them. It's a little bit to get in the door, and I think that's what our friend was saying today. Is like everyone's got a waiting list. Yeah, they do.
Good.
But that's good.
Yeah.
It's good because I don't know, how do you balance that out? Good therapists have a waiting list,
Right.
So I guess a good rule of thumb is that if you have 2 weeks, because hell, it was when I contacted you initially, it was easy,
Right.
2 or 3 weeks. So, but I'm in crisis today. Yeah, we know, but it's going to be some times to get that done early.
Yeah, and the way I'm hearing in general from people is that, they say they have waiting lists, but they're not all that horribly long. And what I find more important is what's the time gap between your first and second appointments? Yeah, you can get me in 2 weeks and then I get to see you again in 2 months. That's not cool. That's not cool.
Yeah, we got to get you back in the room there, man.
So you want to have, I would be encouraging in general to people listening, what I'm being told is therapy demand is down. Waiting lists are short or non-existent. So if a person's got that on their website, waiting list only, don't let that intimidate you. Try them anyway. What the hell?
Kelli, you got anything for us?
What's your waiting list, Dr. David?
What's a waiting list?
What's yours?
I don't have one.
Oh.
That means somebody can call me, like this individual this morning, and we're probably going to end up chatting about how to conduct the 15-minute sampler.
Okay.
How you set up a script for walking in and get as much as you can out of the 15 minutes as possible. But me, myself, I have constructed my life, thank you, to my own benefit, that I have a lot of flexibility. So if that guy this morning, like yesterday, this happened, this is real. I got up yesterday morning, I was fixing my first cup of coffee, and I had a client who I haven't talked to in probably a year, having a panic attack at work.
Oh, no.
So I had time. I sat down with my cup of coffee. I said, dude, let's walk through this. We've done this before. So we did, and then I set him up some time in the afternoon, and we walked. How'd you get there? What provoked the panic? How'd you handle it when you were at work? All that kind of stuff. And he did really, really well. Just so happens, this guy has got a 7-year-old daughter. And every time we've been on the phone, we've talked a lot, she shows up. And I get to listen to how she approaches her daddy.
Okay.
And I think, dude, you're doing a whole lot of stuff right. If your little girl can walk up to you while you're on a phone call, feel completely comfortable telling you stuff, asking you stuff, you don't get angry, you don't snap, you answer the question, you deal with it whether you need to, you direct her someplace away from the phone, and then we continue. And that has happened so many times now. That guy's a good daddy.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful thing to listen to when you're doing coaching. It didn't happen in the office. I didn't get to see
Oh, yeah.
an adult with their kid very often. Like Mark didn't show up with Jen or anything.
Right.
But having that interaction in real time while I'm listening, I've had that with so many adults. I got this one lady who's got 5 kids.
Oh my God.
And they keep her busy, man. And she just, the way she talks to them, dude, I've been in the room where I had lots of mommies or daddies snap at their kids if they interrupted them, if they none. She's just graceful, and it's just a beautiful thing to hear.
It's probably a testament to your services as well that keeps her sane.
Well, that could be it.
Yeah.
But I think that daddy...
Breathing exercises,
He was a good daddy before I showed up,
Oh, absolutely.
And he's got a great wife, and I've been able to spend a little bit of time with her, too. So it's a neat family, and it's good. I like hearing people.
That's really beautiful, though, that you were able to help him in that exact moment that he needed.
I like that, too. I think that flexibility is really important.
Yeah. And calm down and then schedule a later time.
Right. Exactly. Get you through the moment.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of that, I think with some more mature parents,
Yes.
you get that. So many times we forget to remember that they're just little people.
Yes.
You know, they're wanting to know and they're curious. I mean, I was that person. Shut the fuck up and get out of here.
Yeah.
Can't say I was the best ever at that. And it's kind of funny that Carol told me the other day, she's like, Dad, I don't know if I'm into this whole new you. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? She's like, well, you're just so much more patient than what you used to be. Like, especially with the dogs. Usually, I take the dogs and get really upset with them. But, it's getting older and learning. And I tell you, one of the most humbling things was when we had Dan up here, and you and Dan were talking about how fucking wound up I was back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of self-reflection time right there.
Yeah. But I got to witness the shift of you, actually on duty, because you sat down and you were like, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. This is not the way I'm going to be a leader anymore. Do you remember that?
No, I got the memory of a goldfish. So
yeah. In the very beginning, when I first started, it was, you were screaming at people all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You were pointing, and it was just like, I think maybe we were the new era of like, hey, we don't respond great to that. like doesn't sit well with us.
I agree with that because there had to be a new way. The way, and the sad thing about it is there is no, hey, here's your stripes and here's your keys and you'll drive this other car now. But we had no mentorship at our agency. There wasn't a sergeant that I was shadowing for 2 weeks. It was right into the fucking frying pan.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to make your own way. And what they were really doing at the time was setting us up for failure. The other sergeant, she really had it hard. So I really felt bad for her, because she had absolutely nothing. And, she had a little bit of self-doubt. She needed some confidence building, somewhat. I think that, had she had a good mentor that would have just said, hey, you're gonna be all right, or someone just kind of walk her through the steps, I think she would have had a better path to success, versus what she had. I don't know. What do you think, Hal?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, you can tell when people are more reactive than proactive. And I think that's where I was kind of getting was the shift. You started to identify what it was that we needed so that we didn't make those same mistakes versus just, expecting us to know what we were doing as soon as we came out of FTO.
Right.
Because then you were like, wait a minute, I know who trained you. Then you're like, okay, and that person, sergeant, doesn't have their shit together. So of course, this is the way that it was done there. This is the way I want it done here. And then just like laying out those expectations. But I remember specifically one roll call, you had to ask for some grace, not in those words necessarily, but you were like, I'm doing a personal shift of how you were leading. And you were like, so I'm going to need some extra grace, but that's not what you said. I cannot remember the words that you said, but we basically were like, that sounds cool. And then we like boot scooted out and then you quit yelling. You were just like, you looked at us and you were asking,
they dumped me, David,
teaching and leading in place of screaming and yelling and downplaying. It was a noticeable shift that we were like, oh, we're doing it wrong. Why are we doing it wrong? And how do we do it right? Yeah. And then we had debriefs. We never had those. We started working on the debriefing after each situation, not necessarily for mental clarity, but more so for what did we do wrong? Not that it was like heavy on our chest or anything, but what did we do wrong and how do we make it right?
This book, I think, is what I read.
Oh, yeah. And you gave us all a copy of it.
The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. I keep these in my book. I have probably a couple of these laying around all the time.
You gave us a smaller one too with it.
Yes.
There was another one.
Yes.
You gave us all.
Actually, David,
4 agreements?
Yes. Yes, they got the 4 agreements. I don't know if you want to say that or not, but the 4 agreements is great. Don Pebwell? How do you say his name?
Don Miguel Ruiz.
There we go. Fuck that all up, didn't I?
Not even close.
He got the Don right now.
Barely.
Don something. I need to drink more. So, but yeah, so that shift, and Kelly, thanks for saying that, because a lot of that is, you have to take a hard look at yourself, and how are others perceiving you. Going into the job, I had made some mistakes. Again, no mentoring, no one saying, "Hey, son, this is how you need to do it." We were just cast into the darkness, cold and naked. But you had to understand what your perception was, and I think at that time, I probably went and had it, and I think that was, when did you start?
2014.
2014, that'd be about
April
right.
21st, 2014.
Yeah,
I
so
swore.
2013, 2014, that's where a great man by the name of Paul Hardinger, he was the chief of Blue Ash at that time. And then the man himself, who we're going to have on here, Mr. Ron Hess, who was the chief of Miami Township. And Ron, I admire him quite a bit.
Same.
Yeah, Ron is just such a super dude. Him and I had a lot of talks, and he was just like, "Hey, Mark, try this, and your job isn't to go out and point fingers. You unfortunately have the young shift, so they're going to need, because they break them down to S1s, 2, 3s, and 4s. S1s and 2s need guidance and teaching and all that, and I'm more than willing to do that, being a trainer, but I was just trying to find the balance, because I had been given a bunch of S3s and 4s who need very little instruction, very little guidance. Just go do your shit, guys. What do you need? He said, your role is, what do you need? It isn't go do this, this, and this. He said, because you're immediately getting friction, aren't you? And I said, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm getting friction now from my people, my younger ones. He said, well, you ever think maybe it's you? No, can't be me. I mean, I'm above reproach. I'm a fucking sergeant, for Christ's sakes. But, it is you. And I think that's about the time I came out with the peer review, wasn't it?
Yeah. I just remember Dan and I were talking about it, and we're like, we kind of knew what we were getting into because you taught us at the academy as well. And so we knew his teaching was a very, very directed. But we knew that he wanted our best interest. Like, we knew that he wanted us to grow as an officer, both for safety reasons, and as a whole. And from day one, even at the academy, you poured that into us. But then getting to the department and asking, like, whose shift am I going to be on? And you're like, oh, you're on mine. And it's like, oh, how exciting. Yay. And then the candles blew out immediately, and it was like, this party is over. This is like, but when we did the peer reviews, I remember that, and I remember you got a lot of flack from the other people in the department that was we don't really give a shit what the officers think about us because we're the sergeants. Do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely. They were so pissed off
think.
I did that, David.
Yeah.
Mad.
He did peer review that he was asking us for a review. Yeah. They're like, yeah, we don't care. We'll never do that. What's it matter? What do they know? Yeah.
Okay.
That was crazy.
Let's refuse to include anything meaningful in our learning.
Yeah.
Let's just keep doing the same shit over and over and over again, not talk about it, and that's what'll work, because it's always worked before.
Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
How
you can tell.
Again, poor Jimmy. I mean, that poor motherfucker was stuck with me for 6 or 8 years of his career.
He was with you before I left and after. And I was there for 3.
Poor guy. But like I said, I've said this in the previous episode. He gave me the best compliment as a supervisor, and he really came along after you left. I mean, it was either shit or get off the pot.
Oh yeah.
But he really improved. Well, as an officer, I was really proud of him. And, when I gave him his review, I said, hey, I wish I had this guy over the past couple of years. And he said, well, consequently, I wish I had this sergeant. He said, because, we both found that center ground. Does that make sense?
Right.
To where, we understood one another.
Right.
And we, and it was trying to find those strengths. And Kelli, as well as I do a lot of times on shift, there was some animosity there, right? It's just like I felt like I was having to goad you guys along, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. You guys are fucking adults, but
right.
We'd have a call. Next thing I know, you guys are doored up for an hour, and I'm like, let's
debriefing.
get moving. Let's get it was a barking dog, for Christ's sakes.
I remember you said that. You're like, is there a problem with the barking dog?
Yeah.
It's an hour discussion, and Jimmy and I were like trying to drum it up in our head like some super incognito dog that might have been a dinosaur. We weren't sure.
Yeah,
it's actually a bigger deal.
The fuck, guys. It's like every call we got a door up, but as we can all see now.
I think it was lonely more so than anything. It's like in the middle of the night and there is nothing. I mean, this sidewalk, is gone. Yeah. The streets roll up like no one's out.
Nothing is happening.
Yeah. Let's just have a
there is nothing happening at 3:00 in the morning, David.
That's right.
The one or two calls we would get after midnights, not a lot. But, my point is, let's be out and let's hit them where we're not. Right. If everyone sees that we're clearly sitting, what the hell was the drugstore there? It's Greenville Federal Bank now, but it used to be a drugstore. And then it's right there in Main and Hyatt.
Yes.
I mean, it's a great place to sit. But consequently, once they know where you're at, I mean, I would be a big hypocrite if I didn't say that I like sitting at the BP station, catching that traffic, getting off the interstate, and sitting there. I caught a lot of shit sitting there. I mean,
Pokemon Go was really helpful.
Oh my God,
getting me out of
fucking Pokemon. I remember Sergeant Creech calling me one night because he came in to cover the shift, and he calls me. It's like 4:30 in the morning. He's like, "Bro," and I said, "What's up, Sarge?" He's like, God damn it, Kelli and Jimmy, I think, was Dan still there? I don't remember. But you guys were downtown for ever. And I said, what's the problem? He's like, well, they're down there forever. And I said, do you got a bunch of calls? Well, no. I said, they're out on foot, dude. They're pulling doors and, just doing their thing. He's like, do they do that all the time? I said, yeah. It's fucking 3:30, 4:00 in the morning. What else are we going to be doing?
We're clearing the Eagles down there at the very end that they always left the door open.
Eagles,
Clear out all the alcohol.
Harrison's.
Oh, yeah, Harrison's.
My favorite
always.
Picture is you standing there at Harrison's next to the Indian with your...
3:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Doing the salute.
Yeah.
We're going to Harrison's after we eat. They need to start paying us for hawking their shit, David.
Harrison's is great.
For real.
Yeah. But anyway.
That was a good time. But yeah, I mean, back to the leadership thing. I don't know why you started talking about it, but you changed who you were to be a better leader. And I think that sat really well with everybody. It helped us develop our own selves. I mean, I will never forget. You were open to having officers come up from Dayton who needed help, who wasn't getting help there for specific things, So he was he just became this powerhouse of a leader.
Oh, wow, Kelli.
That I'm not kidding.
Make me cry.
I know, but we all we did. We were well, this is our mentor and this is what he's doing. And then now he's showing us all the aspects of law enforcement and, something that we kind of talked about, maybe talking about as Police Week and pouring into why it's important to go to Police Week and to go to the services and to make time available. So
well, Police
probably
Week,
the reason why, I even went as many times as I did.
Well, Police Week is such a good, that's a great segue, Kelli. Thank you. And I'm really humbled by your kind words. Thank you.
Good.
Because at the time you really don't know, am I doing this shit right?
Yeah.
And
you didn't have a mentor.
Correct. Well, I did. But it wasn't the people I worked for.
The angel and the devil.
Well, right. But when I needed something, and I'm going to throw some shout outs here to some people, Mike Smith.
Oh, yeah.
God love him. Yeah. Mike Smith.
Yeah.
I miss him and I love him, and I just hope he finds his path.
Yeah.
Chief Kurt Althouse.
Oh, yeah.
Chief Aldhouse was a great resource, and I hope we have him on the show really soon. He's agreed to come on.
Good.
Kurt's in DC right now.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
He is.
Yeah.
And he's down there. He's changed roles. He's the city manager now of his city. But those people that I were looking to for leadership, and I would go to my boss. It wasn't like I just cut my boss out.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned the hard way, and it seemed like some of the information I was given badly. It seemed like it was. I'm going to, if the answer is left, I'm going to tell him right every time, so he fails. It was like he was setting me up for failure, and it was like, Jesus Christ, because everything I would try was, and it wasn't just, yeah, that's a little, no, it was a fucking explosion. Would you agree with that, Kelly?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I'm going through all the memories and I'm like, God, why did he do that? Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I went to my boss and I said, look, I need you for some leadership advice here. Mm-hmm. And he would tell me what the answer was, and I would try it, and it was absolutely the wrong. It's just like, I think he's setting me up to fail. I really do. I think this is a setup for failure. I can't explain it any other way other than that was the wrong answer. Maybe he didn't know.
When he wanted to get to know us and he got in the car just to fish information about another officer instead of getting to know me, he asked a million questions about a person on my shift. And I'm like,
I do remember that.
I'm done. This is done. I'm done talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she comes into my office after he left. She's like, I will never fucking do that again. I'm like, what, tell me what's happening.
Yeah, not great. Not great. You can tell the difference of a leader, though. You know right away.
Absolutely.
If they have your best interests in mind.
Yes.
It only takes a couple times to know, like, ugh. You trust your gut at all times. They tell you to do that in law enforcement. Why wouldn't you do it with
that is so true.
administration? You know, if you're questioning something, thank you, Jesus, for giving me that instinct.
Well, it's that spidey sense. I like to call it the spidey sense. Is that or whatever you want to call it? Trust it. Trust that instinct because it's not going to steer you wrong. I mean, would you agree with that, Kelly?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he came in and it was I kind of in my mind, because I'm rewriting my book that I haven't put out yet because it was very, very angry. I reread it.
Oh yeah, we gotta steer away from the negativity.
It was extremely angry, and it's not good. I mean, it's not productive. So I'm rewriting it from. Number one, I'm giving myself some forgiveness because I was
good.
It took me forever, if this person here to my left would have been hurt out of that incident with Tyler Horn, I beat myself up bad enough as it was, but
I think the first couple episodes too, we beat each other up on that.
Yes.
I remember looking at Dr. David like, are we doing this? Like, oh, we're doing that? Okay. Yeah.
But
there's a lot of healing there. There's been a lot of healing.
It is a lot of healing. And can you believe it's been 5 years?
Yeah. No.
2019 was when my IA came out. That incident, our critical incident, was 2017.
Oh, I was like, only 5 years ago. It seems forever
6
now.
years. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it does. It really does. It seems like forever ago. But
I remember it like yesterday.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's trauma. I mean, I can't tell you how many EMDR sessions I've done with this and with Jerry and Stella Ganglion Block. Shout out to our friends at the Chip Terry Fund. Please go to chipterryfund.org and donate till it hurts. They're on their annual fundraising right now. Shout out to Joe Terry. We're going to have her back on the show real soon. But finding that grace and forgiving yourself. Another great segue, Kelly. Of course, we never went back to Police Week. We'll get to that in a minute. But what you were talking about was that shift in leadership and that shift in management. To summarize that, and we'll move on. Getting with great leaders, I would run it by my boss first. I would not take action. Then I would run it by either Kurt, Michael, Paul, or another one of my fellow chiefs that I trusted, leaders that I trusted. And then it was funny because my chief said one word or one answer, right? Mm-hmm. The other three were all what I was feeling. Mm-hmm. So, and it was like, I think this guy's trying to fuck with us here a little bit.
Right.
I probably can't prove that at this point in the game, but I saw the switch coming. Now, in retrospect, that's where I'm going back to the book. In retrospect, where the switch was coming is about 2016, 2017 is where I guess the mood or the attitude, from my bosses started to evolve. Mm-hmm. And that's where the change came. And I think that's what led up to the horse shit that took place in 2019. Mm-hmm. So, but anyhow, a good segue into Police Week. Kelli, what year was your first year down there?
2015.
2015. Yeah, that was a great year. You flew in? Was that the year you flew into Boston? Or I'm sorry, Baltimore?
I flew every year, so sure.
Now, what year did you fly down and you met the girls from Kentucky?
That was my second year.
So the first year,
the family of Officer Tribby and the family of Officer Strickland.
Right.
From Kentucky.
Right,
yes.
right. So the first year you came down.
The first
year. Is that the year we all piled into the hotel together?
Yes. It is. The first year was eye-opening, to say the least. I think that there should be mandatory therapists. Every other person at the bar should have some sort of certificate because you get thousands and thousands and thousands of officers who are now intoxicated with other officers who are also intoxicated. And then you have this unleash of your emotions and then you can't gather it back. You cannot control it. And then you're just like in this weird emotional state for an entire week, plus alcohol and no sleep and lots of walking and barely any food except for Chinese food at the Big Wong or the Big Wok.
The Big Wong.
Big Wong.
Yeah, the Big Wong. Chinatown. We stayed
It's very dangerous. I'm surprised there's not more casualties. Of no alcohol. Like I know it's like so like people are obliterated.
And stay that way.
Well, no. So you do your ceremonies during the day.
Okay.
And then you start drinking at about 12:30.
In the afternoon.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So you go to you have different things all week. They have different things planned. They have the candlelight vigil, and usually you go. It's a very long ceremony, and you're standing for a long period of time. They have food trucks, and most of the time you're in uniform, so you're not drinking. I don't think we went in uniform. Did we go in uniform?
We did.
We did.
No. Only time we go in uniform is to the lawn service. Candlelight Visual was T-shirts with a badge around the neck because we went to.
Why was Fairchild and Westling in uniform? Oh, they were escorts.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, not the ones you pay for sex services. It's although I think Chris would enjoy that.
This is kind of
weird. I know. Sorry, I went there.
Yeah.
No, they were actually escorting the families up. So during Candlelight Vigil, what they do there is they call all the fallen's names. So everyone who died the year before goes on the wall. So for this year's 2025, so the officers that passed in 2024 have their names engraved on the walls that they get on the wall this year. So they call the names at the Candlelight Vigil. So, they call the name, then ring the bell. And it's a representative from each department, each state, or each department from each state that it isn't the same person that gets up there. Mm-hmm. And it's a very solemn occasion. And they had it down at the wall forever. But when they built the National Law Enforcement Officers Museum, under the museum that's right at the end of the wall, they actually put it in the ground underneath it, like 3 floors down.
Interesting.
It's huge. But they moved it to the National Mall, and I think they found out that it's actually better over there than what it was at the wall originally. But it's a solemn occasion. Everyone gets a candle, and from one one candle, the whole place lights up. They shut all the lights off, all the street lights and everything in Washington, D.C., so all you get
really cool.
is the ambient lighting.
They're adding 345 names this year to the wall.
Holy shit.
Well, it's 148 killed in 2024 and 197 who died in previous years whose stories had been lost to history.
Wow, that's... And they didn't foresee the wall filling as quick as it did. So what they do is they have a lot of archivists that are going through and they're pulling those stories up. And, you know, I know like the city of Piqua, they had one of their officers died as a result of he had a heart attack on the range. And the chief at the time's like, well, that's not line of duty. No, yeah, it is.
On duty. Yeah.
It was, you know, you're required to be there. You're on
Right.
duty. You had a heart attack.
Right.
And now it's I think if it's within 3 days or 2 days of your last duty shift, then it can be considered a line of duty. Now, what I got upset about was a lot of the COVID deaths didn't get recorded as line of duty because, well, you know, you can't prove where you got the COVID
Oh,
at.
for God's sake.
I'm like, what the fuck do you mean you can't prove where you got the
Right.
COVID at? We're the only motherfuckers working.
Right.
You know, we are first responders that are required to be out in this shit. Like our great friend Brian Aller. I love him and I miss him. What a great dude, man. You know, God only takes the good ones, it seems like. But, you know, I have an ode to him here. We have his challenge coin here, and I have a memory bracelet here.
I was going to say the bracelet, yeah.
But no, that wasn't line of duty.
I
And
got
that's-
to ask
think
some questions if y'all don't mind.
Let's go.
This is, first of all, we're talking about something that's in Washington, D.C., right?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's been there like a long time? I have not.
Oh, yeah.
1987, I think.
87.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Look it up there, Googler.
I knew those numbers off the top of my head.
And it lasts all week, it sounds like.
Yes.
Starts on, I would guess, a Monday
On the 11th,
on the 11th
and goes to the 17th.
to the 17th, all week.
In 1960,
91.
yeah, 1991 is when it was erected. But in 1962, John F. Kennedy signed into law that May 15th is designated as Police Officer Memorial Day.
Oh.
And so it all hinges around that day.
Okay.
So we build the week. Concerns of Police Survivors, the Cops Association, they're very integral down there. What they do is they bring the families in and just kind of like, this is the club nobody wants to be a part of.
Right.
And what they do is that they have a big a dinner, a
gala.
Yeah, the gala. Kelli got invited over to that. It's really a beautiful thing. That's over in Alexandria, Virginia, which is where Nick's from. Roll call room, Nick.
Right.
That's where he was a sergeant, and because they were the host agency every year, he drove one of the buses around from Lodge 1, and I'm thinking.
We probably hung out.
I guarantee fucking to you hauled
We
our
probably hung
I guarantee
out.
you hauled our
Yeah.
ass around because he loved running the vans.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what they do is the Lodge 1 down there runs vans everywhere. You can get free rides out to Tent City, but the biggest thing is helping those people cope with the loss, and I may get a little emotional here. It's dealing with that loss and having they have a kids camp to where this is how life is now. And then, we did the court online. I'll put some photos up on Facebook for the court online that with Dan the Man and Chris. We were meeting. We always did a meeting in Hinders before we went down to D.C. Kind of planned it out because those guys did a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of officers that are there at Reagan when the survivors come off the plane. They escort them up, to the subway, and then they escort them straight to their room. They take them all the way into Alexandria, get them settled, so there's no ambiguity. They put them on great big buses. They pick them up there, take them right to the memorial, and drop them off. So it's huge, and it's a good week's long. It's
Memorial.
Memorial. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. I mean, it's honor. Honor and remember is what we're talking about all the time. Served. What do they say? serve proudly and sacrifice. I always fuck that up. Valiantly. There we go.
Oh yeah, it's probably on a coin that we have.
Yeah, it is somewhere, but always fuck it
Got a
up.
coin
But
every year.
being a weirdo with honor guard, that's where we took that to the next level. Go ahead, David.
So if I'm standing at the wall, what do I see?
You see two lions.
Two lines.
Are you asking during police week, or are you asking
Just in general?
In general. Okay.
So you get off. There's a subway. It's a subway stop. You get off there in Judiciary Square.
Okay.
And you come up. That's one of the subway stops. Is right in the middle of the memorial.
Oh.
So as soon as you come off the memorial, as you come out, you see on one end there's an adult lion, and then you see lambs. You may have to take over. I don't know why this chokes me up so much.
An adult lion. These are sculptures.
Yes.
Yes.
And the reason why we go with the lions and lambs, and Kelly's going to pull a picture up and show it to you. It's kind of the duality of man. Okay, so we are the protectors. Dave Grossman talks about the people are our sheep. Mm-hmm. We are the sheepdogs. Mm-hmm. We protect the sheep from the wolves, right? Of wolves and lambs.
Right.
Is a segment from his book on killing.
Okay.
The people like to make fun of the sheepdog because it looks like, because he looks like the wolf and blah blah blah. So the symbolism of the wall itself. You on one end you have an adult lion, on the other end you have an adult female lion, but either way, on the inside of the wall is where the lambs are.
Okay.
So you go from one segment to the other, and Kelly and I always every year that was our thing. We got our photo in front of the adult lion, and I'm very proud of those pictures, and I'm very proud of our time down there. And this is emotional for me. I don't know why I'm so emotional.
That's cool. That's cool.
Because it's an emotional place.
Exactly.
There's a lot of feelings there.
The whole thing is about emotion.
You have friends on the wall.
Yeah, I do.
Going down.
Every year they add more names to the wall. I mean, it's like there's an engraving on the wall of each individual officer.
Yes, it's all marble.
It's all marble.
I can't get you the dimensions. Our professional Googler here will look it up.
Yeah.
But every name of every officer that's fallen in the line of duty.
There's currently 24,000. Over 24,000.
24,000
There's
names
over 24,000
on this wall.
Yeah.
And there has to be room for more.
Oh, yeah.
They had to expand.
They just took the cap off and then they extended it up. So they've added, a foot or 2 feet around it, and there's several panels.
Okay.
So like George Eichmeyer's on panel E, so it's east and west, and Eichmeyer is 17E. But just for an example, Jim Kerstetter, who's my former coworker, is there as well. And what we do is we put memorial plaques on the wall honoring Miami County's fallen. That's what, my Facebook page that I run is the Miami County Law Enforcement Officers Memorial page on Facebook. I administer that. Mm-hmm. And then we actually have a physical memorial here in Miami County with those officers that have died in line of duty. So I had the pleasure of coordinating that event for several years. Everybody's like, well, you kind of ran that, didn't you? No, I didn't. They got what's called the honcho, who kind of runs and organizes for the honor guard. And I was very proud to do that. I did it for 16 years with a great bunch of guys who were dedicated to it. But I always felt the need. I took Kelly to her first line of duty death funeral.
Yep.
But the young ones, I talk about that in the academy, and they came up and they serve at our memorials. They help us set the chairs up and things like that.
Right.
So it's instilling that because it is important.
Yeah.
And I always hope that, I hope in 50 years, if I died in line of duty, some fat fuck from Tip City Police Department would come down here and put flowers on my grave, like I do, but because it's important, and it's important that, our motto in Honor Guard is the best we can do is the least we can do. And like Sergeant Chris, he's like, yeah, I want no part of this shit, man. I did one line of duty death funeral and I just,
that's it.
That's not my bag. It's like,
right.
So
I'm thinking you have a week of blowing gut.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if I'm
Yes.
the spouse of a fallen officer, do I go back every year?
Hang on.
Well,
Go.
You
let
do.
me talk about that. So there was an officer, there was a line of duty that kind of sat with me because this mother, okay, she died in the line of duty. She had her baby. Baby was premature and in the NICU. And instead of taking and keeping her time off, she said, you know what? I'm going to go back to work because my baby's being taken care of right now at the NICU. I'm going to go back to work because she worked with children in gangs, getting them off the streets. Okay. So she says, I'm going to go and I'm going to go back to work until my baby's ready. And she was gunned down and never made it back to her baby. And that was one of the hardest things because I had a child. I was a mother.
Right.
And I continually was putting the job before my children. And so the first year, I see where her department had sent 2 or 3 officers. They have the names on the wreaths or their names on the wall. And then above that, whatever panel or section they're in, they have these wreaths that they put behind it.
Okay.
And then it'll have their department, usually like, you know, if it was like, you know, Tip City, it'd be TCPD or whatever in the middle. And then they have usually, like Sarge was saying, a plaque with their name on it, their sacrifice, their time of service, whatever. And the first year there was like, her family was there.
Oh,
I
yeah,
know
all
her
kinds of
husband was
stuff.
there. And the next year we go and I wanted to pay my respects. And there wasn't a wreath that you can literally order online and they'll put them out. The actual memorial fund will put them out. You don't have to do it personally. There was nothing there. And I was like, maybe we're early. No, Dr. Dave, it was the whole week.
Nothing.
And I thought to myself, it hurt because you see all the names on the wall and you see people will take you know, I see it right there at the bottom.
Right.
You take that.
Yeah, pencil etching.
You take the pencil and you go over it and
Right.
you see people paying their respects and there was nobody there for her. And I just was hoping that that wasn't the case back home. Like, certainly they didn't forget about Carrie, like already.
Yeah.
And it was so hard. And then the next year, the same thing. We go back. I want to walk by this panel now.
Right.
I'm invested in this story. I'm invested and I'm resonating with her.
Yes.
And that's where you start to see the shift in your own self is like, nobody's coming for her. Nobody's coming for her.
Bingo.
And another story that also kind of sat with me on that was, she's a singer. Her name's Hannah Ellis. And she was there for her cousin. I think it was her cousin, maybe her brother. I forget. But you can Google her. She has a song about how there's no way it's her officer down. She gets the call that it's, you know, you hear about it and it's her officer down. And she had talked about it wasn't her because his wife got up and was talking. And the wife spoke about how they had all these memories of him being at work and they have all this money that they saved because they were going to do everything after he retired. And
That was the guy that was kind of the spendthrift. We had to save the money for retirement.
yeah. And so his family didn't have vacations. They didn't go on vacations because they were waiting for retirement. And so that was something else that really sat with me. And we got back and I booked a family vacation to Disney because I was
Right
like,
now.
I'm not going to, because I started to do that. And he can vouch for me.
Oh,
every
yeah.
extra detail, every extra overtime, you needed me. I was there. There was a sign up sheet. I was signing up. I mean, unless it was something like really bad, I was probably doing it. I did the extra school details. I loved being a police officer. I loved wearing the uniform. I loved, you know, just being a part of that image. And
Right.
DC changed that image for me because that's the ultimate sacrifice and they forget about you.
Puts things in perspective,
It does.
doesn't it?
Oh,
That was dark.
well, it wasn't necessarily dark, Kelly. It's,
Oh no.
But that's-
it
yeah.
gets right back into the realism.
Exactly.
Of
Yes.
Police Week.
Yes.
Well, it's
of your job.
Yeah, honor, sacrifice, remember. And that's why I get emotional. I've avoided Police Week. We were supposed to go on this year. Remember, we talked about it back in January.
Yep.
Talked to Captain Fabulous. We were all going to go. But I really struggle with that, especially right now with my mental health. Am I good enough to go?
Yeah.
So that's here I am sitting here in Ohio.
Merely talking about it.
Talking about it, and it's really stirring up a lot of emotion.
Right.
And that second year, Kelli and I sat there on the inner wall. She's sobbing. I'm being her friend. I'm holding her as she cries.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Nobody's here, Sarge."
Yeah.
How did they not come the next year?
I mean, that's still fresh to me.
Yes. 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 You feel it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I do.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yes.
Yeah.
And that's, a couple of times,
Yeah.
When we were getting into this talk about going into Police Week and what it means to us,
Right.
That symbolism,
Yes.
being there in your dress blues, being the best you can be. And I served on the cordon line, which we line up shoulder to shoulder from the edge of the memorial all the way out to the street. And we hold a salute while those families and their sponsors walk in and be seated on the line of our Capitol.
Whoa.
And to be in that moment and to experience that,
Yeah.
it's larger than life. I don't know of another way to explain it.
Wow.
Go ahead, sir.
Do you just stand there and weep?
No, because you're at attention. You are holding.
You're
a salute.
shut down. You're shut down
Yeah,
from the
you
inside
are.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
You're just like this for as long as it takes. As they go by.
While those people walk past you,
Yeah.
one after another, after another, after another.
Yeah, you find a
And then-
spot. You find a spot off, and like right now,
Yeah.
as you can see on camera, I'm holding a salute. I'm looking above your head
Yeah.
at that the image behind you.
Yeah.
And that's just where you do. When you're an honor guard, you're just bouncing your legs, you're breathing, you're constantly, we talk about in
Not
our,
locked out, so you don't
Right.
pass out.
right. You don't exactly. You don't lock out, but what you're doing is you are being that person for them. Although you are many that's standing there, to them, this is huge. This is their first time here.
Right.
We're fucking squared away.
Yeah.
We had a Chicago sergeant out there. All right, boys, dress the line. That means get your shit together. Put your elbow out. Get your spacing between the next guy. Be sure your boots are dusted off and your shit's straight and your flies up, and be sure your hat's on straight and your badges where they need to be, and you don't have shit out of line. There's nobody coming down there and in their work rig. I mean, everybody there's fucking squared away. You got entire honor guards that are lined up there shoulder to shoulder. Los Angeles Police Department sends 60 officers down.
Wow.
And they line up in a whole group off to the side, pipe and drum bands from all across the nation. But, with the cordon line, again, the best we can do is the least we can do. We want to be sure these families have this positive experience when they're there. I was there when Trump was in office the last time in 2018, and he spoke, and we literally couldn't get on the lawn. There were so many cops there. I mean, it was literally shoulder to shoulder. It was funny because we had to.
I went that year, but I wasn't a police officer. I wasn't commissioned at the
It was
time.
your last. The day you were there, we started off as a cop, right?
Was that year?
That was that year, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, because then I went the next year,
It was
too.
the next year after. It could have been. Anyway,
Yeah.
maybe I'm confusing them.
No, I went 5 years in a row.
Right.
We went 5 years.
But we had to go through magnetometers, and we had to produce 2 forms of ID to get on the Capitol lawn.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
in full
Yeah.
uniform.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can buy those on Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. But, so the symbolism down in there, and there's lots of it. I mean, they have the honor guard competition and canine competitions, and every, mounted patrol, motor unit, everything police oriented is there.
They have a changing of the guard. So it's like a ceremonial changing of the guard that watches over the wall. too.
Wow.
Which is really cool.
Okay.
And
Yes. Once the wreath is brought from the memorial or from the lawn service, and it's transported down to the wall.
Okay.
And then
So each family takes a flower and puts it in the wreath to make the wreath whole. And then they take the wreath and they take it to the wall.
That's beautiful.
And then they watch.
That's really nice.
They guard it. Yeah.
Yeah. Up till midnight. And a lot of people don't know about this service. It's not really a service. It's just kind of a
ceremonial.
And it's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a waiting list, right?
What do you mean?
For them to apply to have their honor guard the wreath.
Yes. Yeah. You have to get all that done ahead of time. So the honor guards, you have to qualify for it. You have to have your shit together. I mean, not any ragtag bunch of yin yangs like we were here in Miami County. I'm kidding. They're great guys, but
I was never a part of it.
Poor Kelli.
So you both have been there a number of times each.
Mm-hmm.
You've experienced the tremendous emotional. I mean, all your emotions get provoked, I would think.
Every last one.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the whole week you're just an emotional mess, right?
It's so weird, Dr. Dave. So it's like, yes.
Yes.
But then also you're growing emotionally.
As you express.
Yes. Because you're growing in your understanding of the true honor it is to wear the uniform. But then also the weight of the duty that carries, that could be your life. And then the worst part about it is to see the family members, because you're not there with your family typically. Well,
right.
We could have been. And so my husband did come a couple times.
Okay.
And I knew Sainted Susan came a couple times as well.
Yeah.
But most of the time I was there, just Sarge, me, a group of people.
Right.
And we weren't there with our spouses, and we weren't at the wall trying to explain those emotions. We didn't have to. We didn't have to explain the feeling at the wall. I know how it felt internally. They know how it feels internally. And to that, you connect.
Wow.
And then you come back and you're rejuvenated to be a police officer.
Right.
It really, truly helps. So we have a friend who's a deputy sheriff, and he was in a really rough place. And this was a couple weeks before DC. And I said, Joe, you've got to get to DC for police week. You need to take this time off, because he loves the job, but he has, he's it's heavy, right? So I'm telling him, I'm like, hey, we've got to get him here somehow, some way. We're like, sleep on the floor in the room. Like, you just get your ass to DC this week. And he made it happen. And the feedback that we got from that was incredible. Wow, this is what I needed.
Yeah.
This new appreciation, this reminder, this wholesome feeling, yet it takes so much out of you emotionally. So hard to put into words.
But it seems like the insight, the clarification, the remotivation is the product of the emotional being expressed. You cleaned yourselves out. You got to look at the world fresh and clean and clear, and damn, this is a really amazing thing that I do every day.
Right.
And that possibility is always there.
Right.
But it doesn't happen until the emotion gets cleaned out of you.
Right.
And that's my experience with people. Emotion is an incredibly powerful thing. If you let it live inside your body and you don't express it, it'll be an obstacle.
Yeah.
You express it, it becomes an avenue to something beautiful.
It was.
But man, now the other thing I'm wondering, on the wall, does it include suicides?
There's a different section for that during police week. They usually put them on the end, right? They put them on the end under one of the lions.
Well,
and then they had a wood banner in the middle.
Yeah, so the suicides are not on the wall. So it's line of duty deaths only. There's a protocol from National Law Enforcement Officers, and when I first saw that, I was offended. And until you live that, I was a dick about it.
It was new.
Yeah, it was. And what they were doing was bringing awareness because, and we've talked about it, that's why the Shield Within's here today.
Exactly.
Literally.
Literally is because of my previous suicide attempts.
Yeah.
But we don't, they're not on the wall because police suicides just aren't recognized by the national law. It's line of duty death.
Okay.
So you go down, as a result of.
Right.
Now, those attitudes are changing. I really don't foresee them going on there. I really think that there needs to be a separate or another memorial for those people. Travis Howes had a really great video that was out the other day. They were talking about, your guy gets shot in the line of duty or injured in the line of duty. You're all there at the hospital when they come out and you're clapping for them and, you're excited they're coming back to work because they survived their injury. But what if you're off for a mental health crisis?
Yes.
Yeah, you're mocked. You're made fun of. You're on the rubber gun squad now. It's we don't see it the same way, and it's a lot of it's changing.
It is changing.
It really is, and we're thankful for it. But no, suicides do not go on the wall.
And that kind of spreads. I'm thinking there was like some local folks I've heard of who their departments wouldn't like have some kind of service when they passed away if they committed suicide.
That's correct.
And I just never thought of that before when I read that or somebody told me, and it was like, wait a minute. How'd that happen? Aren't those two things connected?
Well, they very much are.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and like we've talked about, a lot during season 1, especially with suicide ideology. That's why we had the man himself, Mr. Clark. Jay Clark was on here from Save a Warrior. If you're having that ideology, reach out. And that's the motto. And here I am getting choked up again. But you're
really good at that.
Well, I guess I'm an emotional ball of shit lately. But
that's okay.
it's we came back for you. That's the whole model of Save a Warrior. Even though your administration didn't come back for you, we are coming back for you.
Yeah.
And like we like to talk about is that you have to be, when you go down to Save a Warrior, it's more of a cleansing.
Yes, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
To where it's get that shit out. And Kelly and I were talking about this earlier.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times we just have that good, honest talk with one another. We can solve a lot of problems. But like with Save a Warrior, they call it the Tunnel of Tears. When you go in there, and we still need to do that.
Yes,
David, we still need to go down there and be witness to them coming in. And of course, Eric Kreitz, our good friend, has invited us down to witness that. And there's a whole setup there for us to witness that. So
I really like the part of the program that you have to be sober for 30 days before you go.
Yes, I'm going to go attain Mr. Teddy. So if you could keep going there for a minute.
No, I think that's a big, something that we were kind of diving into is during Police Week. There's it's called Tent City, and so all these vendors, they set up. They've got different gear, police swag. New tactical tools, and then there's a bar and a band, and it's just an all-out.
Are you talking about Tent City?
Drink fest, yeah. And I think, if that's your cup of tea or a cup of alcohol, whatever, I think it's really fun. I've met a lot of really cool people at Tent City and created long life friendships, like lasting friendships from meeting people in Tent City. But I think if you were to get those same people without alcohol, without the music, it would be a different story. The liquid courage, I think, really helps people kind of relax and be able to express things you would have never heard from these people. Some of these guys are the biggest, baddest motherfuckers you've ever seen.
Oh, yes,
and then they become the biggest, bubbling, crying, sobbing.
Right.
And then in that, there's a connection.
Absolutely.
And so Although,
the alcohol facilitates that connection.
Does. And I'm not an advocate, not like go get drunk with your friends and have a cleansing, but I do think that in that moment, I've been a part of it.
Have a cleansing.
I do feel like being in that moment at Tent City.
Right.
And being able to connect.
Yes.
Because I'm telling you, the year that the event happened was crazy. Because I wasn't ready to talk about it. But Sarge was freely talking about it with a bunch of people.
Oh, my God.
About what happened. And, the amount of alcohol that was consumed. I mean, and it was still fresh for me, obviously, and for us and for the whole thing. And although we had that connection, I still had internal feelings about it. So I would say it was the first time that I was like, okay, and this is let go now. Like, and now we're good and everything is fine, But it's just, it's hard. And everybody had a story. So your story meant nothing, not meant nothing, but you know what I mean.
Just one of many.
It was one of many. Yeah. Exactly. And then you hear other people's stories and you're like, why am I fretting over my shit? Like, I need to get off my high horse and humble myself. And, my story isn't half as horrible as their stories,
Well, but what we always want to talk about is we don't want to compare our traumas.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good.
It's so important that we express it. I like Jerry's analogy of you don't suppress an orgasm. So why would you suppress crying? It's something you need to express. It's something you need to, and it's a natural part of life to be able to do that. And once you bond with these people down there, that's where you're truly going to see loss. And I think a good segue into the last thing. I always went down on the 13th. I like to fly down out of Dayton. We get there in the morning. I run over and put my plaques on the wall to memorialize our people. And then kind of have lunch. And then we get dressed. We go to the Candlelight Vigil. From the Candlelight Vigil, we go out to Tent City if it's open, So if not, then we go to Kelly's Irish Times.
It's a bar.
Which is a good time. It's a bar there in D.C. You go back to the Ohio Corner, which is back in, if you know, you know. And drink. And then we usually stagger our ass back to the hotel. And then pass out. The 14th is kind of a free day. They got there's lots of parades, honor guard competition, mounted patrols. You can go to policeweek.org and get the schedule.
Okay.
Pipe and drums competition.
Pipe and drums is one of my absolute favorites. I love watching the pipe and drum bands. I wish I was more talented and I could play the bagpipes I bought, but that's not me. But the last thing and then of course the lawn service is the morning of the 15th. And some people would leave the morning of the 15th. And I'm like, dude, this is like the day. But, everyone's got busy lives. And I'm not as judgmental now as what I used to be. But the night of the 15th is Police Week's over. So they put the national colors back up to full mast, right?
Okay.
So they play taps. So I took Kelly down to the wall. We go to, we do the lawn service, have dinner, and then we go to Kelly's Irish Times and drink. And then we go to the wall. I try to get to the wall about 11:15 because then they play taps. A lone piper pipes the entire wall. And that is, you could hear a pin drop. The honor guard's there with the wreath. And I tell you, there's been so many times where you just starting to kick your ass into Kelly. Where you meet people that I cannot imagine living through a line of duty death, but those people are sitting there on the wall having a drink to toast their loved ones, and I'm going to click off of me so you can watch Kelly cry, not me.
No, don't click off.
But you really experience that loss with them and that energy at the wall at the time. There's a lot of crying with absolute strangers. I don't know of a better way to describe it. You see someone sitting there and they're emotional and, there's literally a puddle of tears in front of them. And, they got their
two shot glasses.
Oh yeah. Yes.
One for them, one for the wall.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's it's DNA changing. I mean, it's something you just have to go and experience. And I'm so thankful that I was able to experience that. And I'm so thankful that I was able to experience it with Kelli, because again, what we lived through,
Right.
Whenever you live through a critical incident like that in law enforcement, where literally legit God's the reason why we're still here today. That was divine intervention.
Period.
Yeah. Hard stop. Period. Hard stop. You know, and sadly a year later, you know, the city of Westerville lost 2 officers.
Yeah.
In that year we went down there after that, I was so fucked up. I mean, I have a hard time putting it into words, you know, but it's my friend here, Kelli, you know, love her to death. We lived through it. God's put us here for a reason. And I'm really realizing what that reason is now.
Yes.
Her and I are going into business together. Does
Going
someone want to
into
call
business
that?
together.
Kelly's actually going to be my boss.
A little change up.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a wonderful change up. I'm going to take my state test. I'm going to become a realtor. I'm going to be on Kelly's team.
Yes.
Which
is ironically called the Den Group.
Right.
Which is the lion. I don't know if you know this. This tattoo is one of the lions at the wall.
At the wall.
Yeah.
And then my team logo is the same exact lion. And
Perfect.
so, yeah.
Perfect.
I mean, to tell you just a little bit of how important the wall is and the meaning behind all of that.
Yeah.
To me.
I'm so struck by the group nature of it. I mean, there's all these people. And you're part of this entire culture.
Minimum of 30,000 people.
That's a lot of humans.
Yes.
From
really
all
is.
over the world.
And they're all blowing gut every day.
Yeah.
And so it becomes
Now blowing gut, you mean
Crying.
not
and
throwing up.
raging in your room
Yeah.
and throwing shit at the wall. I mean, you know, there's just, it makes you angry when you lose somebody.
Yes.
So there's all this emotion that comes up. And it becomes a very group thing. But at the same time, it's such a deep individual thing.
Yes.
Listening to you, watching you process like you're there. You're not in this room.
Yeah.
Right.
You're in D.C. right now.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like it's
I'm smelling the trees. You
Yes.
know.
I feel like it's the right environment. Like some of these people can't do that back home
Yes.
in front of their peers,
Yes, exactly.
you know?
This is a once in a year opportunity
Yeah.
to be healthy. Damn.
Making me have fear of missing out now. I'm getting on a plane tomorrow and going down for the rest
exactly.
of the week.
Yeah,
Let's go.
exactly.
Yeah.
The thing about DC is that, you know, you have to experience it to understand it. But if you don't want to experience that, I get it. I think that every law enforcement officer should go at least once in their career.
Especially if you're in a bad headset.
Oh, fuck yes.
Not for the podcast, but a bad mindset, a bad headspace.
Right.
Any other word
right.
than headset.
You're good.
But
Yeah, and it's like our friend Joe, you know, you recognize that and you're like, get down here and you can see that.
and he had a blast. And we still talk
and
about it.
You meet the most wonderful people. I had the pleasure, and I put it up on our Facebook today. So Facebook.com/Shield Within. You'll see my wife and Susan and Beverly Coates. God rest her soul.
Your wife and Susan.
No, I'm sorry. My wife, me, and Beverly Coates. I said that wrong. My wife Susan and I is what I meant to say.
My wife and Susan.
Well, sorry, I'm a little emotional, so getting my shit together. But anyway, the three of us, Susan, me, and Beverly Coates. Beverly's the mother of Marc Coates,
Oh, yeah.
South Carolina trooper that was killed in the line of duty at milepost 7 back in the early 90s. He was a trooper working the ACE task force, the Advanced Criminal Enforcement Unit. And he stopped a guy out of Florida driving a Mustang, and this guy shot and killed him with a 2-shot Derringer. So when he reached up across himself to call out, he let off a round and went through his armpit, cut off the top of his aorta, and killed him. And it's one of the most haunting videos ever. In the line of duty owns the rights to it, but it's I can't watch that video. It you know, it's very makes me really sad.
Yeah.
To watch that because you hear the gas going out. He's calling out. Richland is the next post up. So he's calling it out, and Mark dies there on the scene. But what Beverly didn't know was the fact that those of us that teach stops and approaches use that video, and she didn't realize how much or how many lives her son has saved. And I felt very honored to be able to tell her that.
Yeah, beautiful.
That and that's some of the miracles that you meet. One year we were down there and we met Wei Jianlu and Ramos from New York.
Oh, yeah.
They were shot and killed in the line of duty. And we were walking to dinner, and they were crossing the street, and we, seen this Chinese couple, and they didn't speak a fucking word of English. I remember Mike Smith going, "Who are you?" And they're like, "Ah!" And finally, their English interpreter came up, and they said who we were or who they were, and we ended up meeting. We met them, and I gave them my business card, and he said, and about 2 weeks later, I got a really, really nice thank you card. And it was a pleasure meeting you in Washington, D.C. Thank you, blah, blah, blah. We met their unit. We exchanged challenge coins, and you just meet just the most wonderful people down there. And if you haven't been, our good friend Bill Erfurth with Heroes Behind the Badge, we went for a screening there, Heroes 1, Heroes 2. That's where we had the pleasure of meeting Jimmy Kuzak. Was down there in the district. Him and his significant other Chris, friends with him today. We're hopefully going to have them on the show here real soon, and be able to interview him. So it's just I call them DC miracles, and the miracles of people you meet down there. You can only do so much, but going through Kelly's Irish Times for the first time, we got back to the corner, and Kelly turns around and looks at me. She says, "I feel like I've just been abused."
I mean, it is. I say shoulder to shoulder, but it is not shoulder to shoulder. It is front to back. Smashed in there.
She said, "I've never been groped so much in my life."
Yeah.
I'm a drunken cops.
I mean, it's one of those things where you're like, do I want to be in here?
But it's an experience. That one year we went down with Mark went that year, and Susan went, and they were, Kelly and I are just got like our second win. We're like, woohoo, let's go.
We're going out, and Mark and Susan are like, we're not. We're like, bye. See you later.
So did we walk down? We Ubered over to Dan and Chris's hotel.
Oh my goodness!
And
they came out in robes.
Yeah, they look like Pearson McIntyre from MASH.
From their boutique.
I love it.
Animal
from their
print.
boutique hotel. Their boutique hotel had robes. Like
yes,
for the guests.
Yes, those are nice ones.
Then they wore to the bar.
Yeah, so they put on a T-shirt and shorts and flip-flops.
What was the other bar called at the hotel? What's that called? We get the cups every year.
Oh, yeah. I gotta go look. They're in the cupboard there.
Oh my god!
We'll put it up on which hotel? In our hotel?
No,
no. The Irish, in the Fairfield Inn. Irish Channel.
Irish Channel.
The Irish Channel is right there in the.
I still have my memorial. I'll send the group picture. We got a cup every year.
So fun.
Never put an ounce of alcohol into it, but I got the cup. But anyways, the reason I say that is because for whatever reason, I had the cup with me. And so I'm holding a glass cup. I have no business having a glass cup. And I thought that was funny because and then these guys come out in their robes. I was like, well, my cup isn't funny anymore.
It was off the hook. We went to Kelly's and we had
all the ladies.
They were lined up for these two guys, man. They were loving Dan the Man, dude.
It was hilarious.
Dan's like, Jesus Christ, been coming down here for years. I can't even get a woman to say hello to me.
Yeah.
I walk into this fucking bar in a fucking bathrobe, and I got them lined up wanting to take pictures with me. He's like, I don't get it.
That was funny.
But we just had the best time. We met so many people from across the nation that night. It was kind of like winding down, but man, we
also took a private tour of the Pentagon, which was very cool.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, our good friend,
the memorial.
Our friend helped us out there, took us in, showed us a lot of the behind the scenes things that we did. But wow, we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah,
it's been an hour and 20 minutes.
Good.
Yeah.
Bye.
So here we go. Donnie, key the music.
May your days and nights find you strong and safe. May you take your place as your family's face. As you do the shit that we won't do. As you embrace the risk you must go through. May you grow in strength and heal and find your heart, your soul, and your mind. You look at your life and grin. You have a home, the shield within.